Here we go. Let's get it. Starting out smooth this week. Starting out smooth this week. Welcome everybody. Welcome to Music is Life. Brought to you by the Uncut Foolishness Podcast. I'm your host D. And y'all know how we do on every Thursday. Year's 2010. And we're smoothing it out. So let's go ahead and get into these fun facts. 2010. In 2010, the very first iPad was released. On April 20th, the Deepwater Horizon oil drilling platform explodes in the Gulf of Mexico, killing 11 workers. The resulting Horizon oil spill, one of the largest in history, spreads for several months, damaging the waters and United States coastline, and prompted international debate and doubt about the practice and procedures of offshore drilling. The event was later turned into a movie and The event was later turned into a movie in 2016 starring Kurt Russell and Mark Wahlberg. Instagram was publicly launched. In sports, the New Orleans Saints, as I refer to them as Aints, won their only Super Bowl, defeating the Indianapolis Colts 31-17. And they ain't stopped talking about this shit since. You know what I'm saying? Damn, who that trash? But you know how we go. Cowboys for life. Later that year, Reggie Bush was forced to return his Heisman Trophy. The NBA All-Star Game was held at Cowboy Stadium and set the record for the largest attendance at a sporting event with 103,713 attendees. Notable deaths that year was Dennis Hopper, Alexander McQueen, Lena Horne, Leslie Nielsen, Gary Coleman, the great Teddy Pendergrass, hip-hop legend Guru, college basketball coach and legend John Wooden, Manute Bol, Yankees owners George Steinbrenner, and the late great Tina Marie. And those are your fun facts for 2010. So how everybody doing this evening? Hope everybody's having a good day, good evening, good times. Our intro music for this evening was Jaheim, Ain't Leaving Without You, from his Another Round album that was also released this year. So we're going to start with R&B tonight, since we started with a nice smooth groove of Jaheim. Jaheim was a very good artist, different cat, but makes good music. Solid album. Ain't Leaving Without You was a good song on there. He had a couple joints on there. So let's get to this R&B. R&B had quite a few albums I was really feeling that year. It was had some surprising albums on there that I wasn't expecting, but good over nonetheless. I'm actually started at the bottom this week, as I normally do sometimes, off and on. So I actually did 6 albums, really 5, but I'm gonna do an honorable mention. So my honorable mention album for this week, R&B, goes to Miss Erykah Badu with her New America Part 2. Dope album. I'm saying, she the hometown native. Always riding with Miss Erykah. Can't do wrong with Miss Badu. Decent, very decent album. Very, very, very decent album. Definitely not my favorite album of hers, but I would say it's top, definitely top 5 or top 3. I said top 5. This was actually her 5th album, if I'm not mistaken. But I really, really enjoyed Window Seat from that album. I actually like the song Agitation and Gone Baby Don't Be Long. My wife really loved this album. She grooves to this album from time to time. She really, really enjoys this project. This is one of her favorite on Erica albums. So Erica came in at number 6 for this week. At 5, I'm gonna go with the boy Usher Raymond with his Raymond vs. Raymond album, the deluxe edition though, right? This project wasn't never really one of my favorite Usher projects, but it did have some good joints on there. I'm not gonna lie, but it's actually stood out this year over a couple of other albums that I was looking at because there was so many on there that I did like. Like probably my favorite joint off there was "There Goes My Baby," which was a single. It may not be my favorite joint. I really love "She Don't Know" with her and Luda. Right, that's a joint for me. Lil Freak, dope tune, dope tune. Another joint that it grew on me. I didn't like it when I very first heard it. I thought it was a reach, and they were just trying too hard to make them cut that collab. And that was Hot Toddy with him and Jay. I wasn't too thrilled on that one. But like I said, it eventually grew on me. So I kind of like it. So that's the album. Those are the joints off that album, off the Usher Raymond vs. Raymond. There Goes My Baby, Lil Freak, She Don't Know, Hot Toddy. 4, I'm going to go with another one of my favorite male singers. Usher, for my demo, is probably number 1. And the next artist is probably number 2 for me. I can't speak for everybody. I'll just speak for me, or the gentleman I like to hear. And that's Neo. So coming in at 4 this week is Neo with his Libra Scale album. Like, I'm a huge Neo fan. So I'm gonna like majority of his projects and most of the songs. So again, this is another, to me, classic Neo project. Was it his best project? Of course, I'm not saying that, but it's definitely one of his a very solid outing for him. Champagne Life, tough song, tough song. I really like that joint. Know Your Name, Telekinesis, and Crazy Love are also 2 other joints off there that I like. Those 2 are probably 1 and 2 for my favorite songs off that album. It's hard for me to describe them because if you know, you know, right? It's like that. It's something like that. If you know, you just know. But yeah, Champagne Life, Know Your Name, Telekinesis, Crazy Love, and I believe One in a Millions off that joint. Yeah, One in a Millions off this album too, which was a single. So yeah, those are the joints off on Neo Libra Scale. Coming at 3 was the debut album by a particular artist. Well, this young man. He caught a lot of people by storm, and when he did, he went crazy. He's an artist, if that makes sense to y'all, right? An artist. So at 3 for the week, I'm going with the boy Miguel with his debut album, All I Want Is You. That boy lost his mind. He came in and went crazy on that joint, right? So, you know, Sure Thing was a big joint. All I Want Is You is big joint. And Quickie. Quickie was a joint. Miguel, he crazy with the joints with him and J. Cole. They did a lot of work together early on in Miguel's career, as far as singles wise. So you see, I want to say they had like 3 or 4 good joints. They became singles out there, but yeah, Sure Thing, All I Want Is You was a nice setup. Quickie for Miguel. Coming at 2. 2 is it was interesting for me. Like I really love this album, Some people, I'm not sure how they felt about it because this isn't a typical R&B album, right? He's actually all over the board. He's more of a, I would say, pop. Well, he's not pop. He's a hip hop artist who does everything. He does pop. He does spoken word, R&B. He doesn't lock himself in any particular box. So this album, at first was going to be an honorable mention because it's not your typical quote unquote R&B, but it was so big to me that I ended up putting it so high. So at number 2, I went with CeeLo Green and his Lady Killer album. That album was crazy. For anybody who hasn't heard it, you should go check it out. Go check it out because dope project. Bright lights, big city. Dope. Dope, 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 dope. He had FU. And probably my favorite joint was Bodies. That boy did his thing on that whole album. I want to say it's maybe, if I'm reaching, 1 to 2 tracks off that album that I really didn't like so much, I would say. But I can just let the whole joint rock. And even the joints that's not my favorite, I can still let it play in the process. But yeah, CeeLo Green with the Lady Killer. And coming in at number 1 is the boy Choking My Tray with his Passion, Pain, and Pleasure album. This was his second year in a row, his second album, where he became he had the number 1 spot, in my opinion, right? That's when he was at his apex, his epitome, his highest of the high. At that point, he couldn't do no wrong. I think he held it for like maybe 1 more album, and then he started going down. A lot of people hating on, especially my homegirl Valencia. But Trey, my favorite joint off them was Massage, hands down. Massage was my joint off that album. Then right behind that was Can't Be Friends. That song hit me at a pivotal time, I would say. I had a lot of stress going on in 2010. And that Can't Be Friends song just spoke volumes. Another joint I was really feeling was Unusual. Like Trey, him and Drizzy, they did good together. They made some good songs together. They made some good music together, and it typically had a very good winning formula when they got together. So yeah, that's just another joint off with Trey and Drake. So the boy Slim Cutta sent in a quick list. He says Trey album was a top pick for him. Usher, Neo, Tank joint. Tank album. Tank was. I'm not the biggest Tank fan, but he did have some good songs on the album. Like I really liked Sex Music on that joint, and Foreplay with him and Chris Brown. So it had joints on. I'm not gonna lie. Monica didn't really get into that album as much, but Monica is another one of those artists. She's a legendary act. Like you're gonna get quality music at all times with Monica. So you really can't go wrong with her. You can't go wrong with her. Honorable mention, he had Eric Benet. He had his girl Miss Carey. And he also had Jamie Foxx. Okay. So solid picks by Slim Cutta. But you know what I'm saying? That's your R&B for the week. So I don't normally always do a musical break in between the two, but I am this week because this dude here had a big project too for hip hop, but he didn't make my list. But I'm gonna let it rock for a couple seconds and then we'll get into hip hop. Let's go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That boy Walker. That boy Walker. Yeah, Walker dropped his debut this year with his Flockavelli. Walker is an interesting character, right? He's not a good rapper, but he made good music, quality music. So that Flockavelli was hard. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Hard in the Paint, Oh Let's Do It, Grove Street Party, that's my joint too. He also had what's the name of the joint? I don't forgot the name of the joint that they're fan with him. The boy Wale, the boy Roscoe Dash, hits. Walker had a hell of an album on his first album coming out. The joint with him and Wale is the girl Valencia's favorite, as she calls her birthday song. That's her favorite song that she says she has to hear every year for her birthday. But yeah, Walker did his thing on that album. So Walker was an honorable mention. That's why I had to go ahead and play his instrumental to get him in here. But yeah, so again, I'm rolling with I had 5. No Hands, that's right, that's the name of it, No Hands. But there's a couple others that I want to highlight this year. Walker being one. Another artist from Walker's really from New York, but he claimed A. Another Atlanta artist that dropped that year that I always liked, that I think never really got the push that he deserved, and never got the light he deserved, was the boy Stat Quo. He dropped Stat Atlanta that year. I rock with Stat Quo. Boy be speeding. He dropped that year. Another A-Town native. The boy Luda dropped Battle of the Sexes that year. Right? Everybody know about that album, that project, the things it did with How Low Can It Go, the My Chick Bad, Everybody Drunk, Party No More with him and Gucci. You know what I'm saying? That Battle of the Sexes has some joints. I wish the original that was supposed to be him and Shauna would have came out, but they had a little disagreement and falling out, and she ended up leaving DTP, so he ended up having to change the whole album up and pretty much made it by himself. My boy Joe Budden dropped his Move Music 4 album that year. I'm not gonna knock y'all over the head with that one. Y'all know how I feel about Joe and his music, but Move Music 4 was a solid project from him. Eminem dropped Recovery. That almost cracked my top 5. It really did. It was hard for me to leave M out. And I'm not an M fan by far. I'm not an M fan, but I did like that project. It had joints on there that I did like Never Back Down was dope with him and Pink. That's probably my second favorite joint off there. He had No Love. Then the very last track on that album was Untitled. That's probably my favorite song off the album. But yeah, M's Recovery. And let's go ahead and get into the albums. So the real honorable mention, which is 6. This artist made the list because of honestly how big their album was. Right? I'm not gonna say I'm a fan of this artist. I know I'm not a fan of this artist, but I respect this artist for what they've done and what they do. Now, do I think they're overrated at times? Yes. I think they get blown up as being bigger than what they are, and they think they're bigger than what they are. But like I say, they're not. I'm not a fan of them like that, and they don't make music for me. But the album was huge. So honorable mention number 6. Really, I went with Nicki Minaj and her Pink Friday album, her debut album. Right, like I say, I don't listen to Nicki like that at all. She do have joints that I do like. I'm not gonna act like I don't. But yeah, solid project. Like I did like Did It on them. I definitely like Moment for Life, which is probably my favorite song on that joint. Uh, Your Love was a decent song. Super Bass was cool. You know what I'm saying? That's for the ladies, of course. My daughter loved it. I don't know why. She should not know that song, but she do, and she really likes it. But Nicki album was a huge album. I'm not gonna act like it was. It was big for her. It was big in music that year period, I should say. But it wasn't just for me. It's the funny voices she do that trips me out, which is weird because some people be like, "Oh, you don't like when she do the funny voices," but I can hear Slim saying it right now. You'd listen to it if Kendrick do it. But hey, man, to each his own. Everybody like what they like. But Nicki came in at 6 for this week. At 5, I went with her label mate, who made his real debut album, the boy Drake with "Thank Me Later." Right? Everybody, I have a love-hate relationship with Drake. I don't even say hate at all. I just can't get with all this music. It's just, I don't know. I just don't know with Drake. He just weird to me. But "Thank Me Later" was a solid album by him, especially as a debut album, right? My favorite joint out there by far was "Up All Night" with him and Nicki, right? That was the very first time I ever heard Nicki rap, and I said, "Oh, she can rap." Because previous to that, everything I heard from Nicki, I didn't like. Like I say, I wasn't a fan of hers at all, by far. I didn't think she was that good about. I thought she was overrated. But the verse on that "Up All Night," she spazzed on that joint. I'm not gonna lie, she killed it. So that's my favorite joint off that Drake, "Up All Night." I also like "Fancy" with him, Swiss, and Ti. Dope track. Um, "Miss Me" with Wayne. Of course, "Over" was a big joint, the lead single. And I also like "The Resistance." Those are the joints I really like the most off that album. Okay. So Drizzy came in at 5 with the "Thank Me Later." Like I say, "Up All Night," "Fancy," "The Resistance," "Over." At 4, my boy Ulam, you know what I'm saying? He he likes this project that I end up picking at 4. I was never a fan of this project like that. I thought it was overrated, but for the year, it was a big project. Don't get me wrong. It was a big project, just not one of my favorite projects. But for me to leave it off the list would be disingenuous, right? So at 4, I went with Kanye West, "My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy." I did like joints on there, like "Dark Fantasy" was a dope joint off there. Of course, "All the Lights" was a smash. "Power," and probably "Runaway" was probably, well, "Power" was probably my favorite joint, and then "Runaway." You know what I'm saying? My boy Push was on that joint, so you know how I feel about Push. Then "Blame Gang" was another dope track. I'm not going to front. Like half the album, I'm not gonna lie, I actually do like half the album. I just don't like the whole album. It's one of my least favorite Kanye albums. Around, I think I want to say Kanye started losing me around the 808s album. You know what I'm saying? So after his first 3 albums, he started to lose me as a somewhat of a fan. But again, at 4 was "My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy" by Kanye, and you had "Dark Fantasy," "All the Lights," "Runway," "Blame Game" as the joints off that album I was really feeling. At 3, I'm gonna be honest. This album made 3 because 4 through 6 wasn't the strongest albums for me, but they were big song albums for the year and for hip hop rap. This artist, I did like the album. I listened to it a lot, but it wasn't my favorite album. But I would be wrong to leave this album off the list. So at 3, I stayed with the Texas OG and went with Bun B with the Trill OG, right? The joints I was really feeling was Right Now with him, the boy Pimp, Choke 'em Out Trey, and they also had a feature from the boy Tupac on that joint. Crazy song, like the fact that he had the joint with Pac and Pimp on there, and both of them was passed away at the time. Well, Pac had been passed away for 14 years, so I don't know how he ended up with that verse. Well, I mean, he reached out to the state and got it, I'm sure, but the fact that it fit perfectly with the track was dope. But yeah, Right Now was dope. Let Them Know, what I'm saying, with him and Primo, dope track. You know what I'm saying? Primo, DJ Premier is really from Texas. I want to say he's down from like the Prairie View area, but he's a Texas person, even though he's known for being working in New York with Guru. Uh, Lights, Camera, Action, another dope track off there. He opened the album up with his joint Church. Had the boy Pimp talking on it, Jay Prince talking on it. They gave a shout out to Drake on that joint, saying that Drake was a member of Rap A Lot. That's when he just got in. Like I say, Drake had everything set up for him to become the biggest artist ever. He had everybody co-signing him, so there was no way he could fail. So who he is now, it was set up for him from the jump. You know what I'm saying? He came in with everybody from the South co-signing him. He had, like I say, he had Rap A Lot. He had Cash Money. he had it all set up. You couldn't do anything wrong with his rollout. But for another day. So at 3 was Bun B with the Trilogy. 2 was a project I used to listen to a whole lot. Like a lot of people probably didn't listen to him as much, but I did. At 2, I went with Lloyd Banks, Hunger for More 2. Banks, aka PLK, for those who don't know, it stands for Punchline King. That boy be spitting. Banks that guy, man. Banks is that guy. Me and Hood, we used to listen to that joint a lot. Hunger for More had a whole bunch of. I like that whole album, but of course you had Paybacks, P's and Q's on there. That's probably my favorite joint on there. That's my favorite joint on there for sure. Not even a question. You had Started Up on there with him, Fab, Yay. You had Beamer Benz Bentley with him and Santana. That's probably my favorite Santana verse of all time. Like he wasn't on that fake camera Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity rap. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. But Hung for More 2, so like I said, you had Payback, you had Started Up, you had Bieber Benz and Bentley, and you had the joint So Forgetful with the boy Ryan Leslie. Ryan Leslie is my guy. You know what I'm saying? Ryan Leslie is my guy. And Ed 1, coming in at 1, the top album hip hop for the year, Mr. 305, The Boss, Rose, with the Teflon Don. Hey man, Teflon Don, hard project. It's probably mine. I know a lot of people like to say that's probably his best album. It's probably my second or third favorite Ross album. To me, his best project was Deeper Than Rap. But Teflon Don, that joke had my favorite joint, I'm Not a Star. It had Super High with my boy Neo, Live Fast, Die Young. Had BMF, you know what I'm saying, with the boy Styles P. Hey, crazy project. Crazy project. And that's Teflon Don. Alright. So my boy Slim Cutta he said Banks was his honorable mention for the week, but his 5 was Cole's Friday Night Lights mixtape, which is what scared me. I thought I missed the Cole album. I was like, hold on now. But Friday Night Lights was dope. I'm not gonna front. Good selection, but I just didn't put it because it was a mixtape, Slim. He had Nicki on there, which I knew he was gonna have. He had Drake on there, which I knew he would have, and he had Ross. I knew he would have. Now he picked Wayne. Well, I'm not a human being, which was a shocker for me. Well, I kind of figured he probably would pick a Wayne project. So it's not so much of a shocker for him, but for me, I couldn't really get into it. He did have a couple joints on there. Wayne actually dropped 2 projects that year. He did I'm Not a Human Being, and he had his Rebirth joint, his rock album. In my opinion, Rebirth was trash. But it did have the joint with him and M that was hard. The Drop the World, I believe that's the name of the joint, but that song was hard. But for the most part, in my opinion, both of those projects, neither one of those projects was that good. But to each his own. Wayne at that time was just trying things. So that is our wrap up for Music is Life 2010 for this week. Again, for everybody listening, you can go follow me. I'm on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. You can pretty much find me at D Patterson 214 everything. But it's D Patterson 214 on TikTok, D Patterson 214 on Twitch, D_Patterson 214 on Instagram, Unfiltered Foolishness Podcast, Unfiltered Foolishness Podcast on YouTube. Go to every spot, follow, subscribe for those who have not. That way you can see these more, you can see the old ones that you've missed, and you can see the new ones coming, and you can also see the other podcasts and projects I'll be working on throughout the weeks that I do, and y'all can catch it on. Just follow me there. I'm gonna holler at y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Appreciate the love. Catch y'all next go round. Peace.